Welcome back, you lovely people, to another video. We're here at the Nordschleife trying to get redemption from our earlier escapades in week number 1, which did not go as planned. As you can see here, we have lost a ton of safety rating and a little bit of I rating. So we are here at the Nordschleife in the Rallycross Volkswagen Beetle to see if we can have a bit of fun, get our mind off of the losses recently, and to try and gain some safety rating. We're coming up towards the last corners of the warm-up lap, coming around to start the lap. We have qualified in P number 5. We didn't actually set a qualifying time, but for some reason it put us in P5. Coming around into the last corner now, about to start going green, green, green with a car on our left. So we're going to see if we can keep it nice and clean and gain some safety rating from this one. Coming to turn number 1, we get a nice little bit of a run on the brakes, but the car on their inside has the inside line and he has a better run out. We've got the Subaru behind who's being very aggressive. He's trying to just keep with us, but he backs out of it into that right-hander, and coming up into this really, really tight, tricky left-right section of the track, he is right on our back bumper. He's sliding around a little bit, as you can see, so he's being very, very aggressive on this opening lap, and we're going to come through this second right-left as we come down towards this next right-hander, which is crucial to get a good run here because you're going to go up the hill in a second, so it's good to get a nice run out of here. We get a decent run. The Subaru behind hasn't gained any time on us. We're starting to gain very, very marginal time on the Volkswagen in front. We're going to come up over the crest now. I lock my brakes on landing, as you see, a little puff of smoke. Just about keeping it together through the double right-hander coming down the straight. That has compromised us a little bit, and we're on the defensive against the Subaru behind. He was seeming pretty quick right now, and I don't know if there's a difference between the Subaru and the Volkswagen, but we own the Volkswagen. We don't own any other of the Rallycross cars. We just jumped into it and said, after a couple of practice laps, and decided, you know, let's just have some fun. Coming into this long right-hander, braking on the downhill sections, a little bit tricky, but you can take this corner quite well and you can exit with a lot of power really early, utilizing the four-wheel drive of the car, keep it in third gear and just go. Through this section here, coming down the hill where it's a little bit of kinking of left, right, left, it does like to slide around. Coming over the crest here, it's going to slide around a little bit. You can see the Subaru behind took a little bit more curb than we are, but we're right behind the pack in front. Still around 5th or 6th place, so doing okay right now. A couple of cars out in front have gone off into the distance, so probably not going to catch them as the Subaru runs straight into our back bumper. That's the second time this week somebody's just run straight into the back of me. I did possibly miss a gear shift there, which is probably my fault, so he probably wasn't expecting that, so I wasn't too worried about that one, wasn't really upset about it. It was just about a fun. When it was a 0x for whatever reason, it felt like a really hard whack in the race, but he seemed to have minimal damage, if any, and as he locks the brakes here, but it was just a 0x, so we'll take a 0x. I'm not going to complain about a 0x, it's not the end of the world. So, we've lost a position to the Subaru, but I'm hoping to get the tyres up into temperature and hopefully capitalise on people's mistakes. The Nordschleife is a tricky track and it requires a lot of concentration and a lot of precision just to be fast. As you can see here, I'm sliding coming in through the right-hander into the really tight left hairpin, so I have to be very careful on my brakes there. Car was sliding all over the place, but I just about keep it together. Coming into this kink into the right, into the left-hander here, the Subaru goes for a move on the Volkswagen in front, and we keep it together, nice cleaner this time than the previous corner, so now we're looking a bit feisty and we can think about gaining onto the back of the car in front. So Michael has lost a place to Craig, who is in the Subaru, and we're looking at possibly capitalizing on a few mistakes. As you see, Michael slides out in front a little bit. Coming into this long right-hander, we tried to get on the power as early as we dare, and another corner where you can just really floor the accelerator and just utilize the four-wheel drive to pull you out of that corner. Coming through this section here, it's all flat out. Not sure exactly what happened, Michael, there. He touched the grass, lost the back end a little bit. We just about avoid. I was thinking at the time, do I brake, do I accelerate, do I brake? I was indecisive, but I just hit the accelerator, and luckily for us, we were able to get past him without any issues. So coming into this long left-hander kind of kink, high-speed section, very, very easy to run wide, very easy to hit the wall. This right-hander is also very easy over the crest to run wide, so you have to do a little bit of a lift for confidence more than anything else. Coming up now into the long right-hander before we get up into the carousel, you've got the Subaru right behind a couple of cars out in front, so we have potential here to gain a couple more positions before end of lap number 1. Coming into the carousel, taking it nice and handy, just making sure we don't pop out. That would be worst case scenario, is popping out, because you end up on the high side of the carousel, and it's really, you know, has like almost no grip there, and it's really difficult to recover without losing a ton of time. Just about keeping the car together. This car was a ton of fun to race around here. It was very slidey. You really had to slide it through some corners just to get the most out of it. And I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And this race was a lot of fun. Just, as I said, one of those last minute ideas. I just had a couple of practice laps, jumped in and said, screw it, let's see what happens and what we end up doing. Primary goal for this one was safety rating, so we are on, I think it's 0x right now, and we're happy just to try and keep with the 0x's as long as possible. Lots of corners as the car blinks out in front. We've had plenty of issues with that in our P Cup race, so check out that video and you're going to see how I handled that and how I tried to get around a blinker that was absolutely blinking all over the place. But this guy doesn't seem too bad. He blinked for a moment, but he doesn't seem to be blinking right now. The Subaru's all over his back end right now. I'm just trying to keep with these guys, watching for any of their mistakes. If they start fighting and squabbling, we'll be right onto the back of them in no time. The Nordschleife is also one of those tracks, as you can see here, where you can gain a lot of time. I almost wash out wide here and go understeering off into oblivion. But we just about keep it together, and as I was saying, the Nordschleife is one of those tracks where there's sections where you can be really weak and there's sections where you can be really fast, especially if you have not practiced a lot. You can see here coming through this fast section, I'm just starting to catch up to the group in front. I'm braking later than they are, coming into this right-hander. I turned a little early, hit the curb, that just puts me off a little bit, but we are still faster than these cars out in front, so we're catching up to them. We're going to be coming down the straight in a second as a car runs wide. We gain another position there, but we're going to be coming through this right-hander and the long right-hander just before we get onto the straight and coming down the back section past where all the kind of tourist cars come onto the track. The Subaru runs wide, hits the barrier, but he stays on the grass. He, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but he stays on the grass even longer, and he's still on the grass. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is he doing? I had heard a while back that there was a kind of a strategy in GT3s at Spa where they all raced on, or kind of dipped the wheel onto the grass to cool the tires down. This is pre the new tires, and I was wondering, is he doing something similar? I don't know if I'm gaining on him, but he was just staying on the grass as long as he dared, like the whole straight, and it was just like, what are you doing? I know you got an off track for that, but what the hell is that all about? Anyway, we're coming in towards the end of this lap. He gets a little bit squirrely under the brakes, locks up his brakes. Again, he goes off the track. I'm looking over my shoulder just to make sure he's not going to come flying across the grass and take me out. Luckily for me, he hits the barrier and he just kind of sticks, so he stays in the grass. We've gained another position. We're back up to 5th place. After losing a few positions at the start, we're back up to where we started. We have a goal in sight. We have a car. I think it's Adam in 4th position, so we can potentially catch up to him. He was a little slow in places than we were, so there's potential to gain another position here with Adam. So, safety rating is still intact right now. We've completed lap number 1. It was a 7 minutes and 9 seconds, so it was okay lap. I'd be pretty happy with that lap, and we are in a pretty decent position. I'm not too worried about my I rating for this one. If it's just going to be what it is, I have plenty of I rating to, you know, work with, so to speak. Being 2.4k, even if I lost 50 I rating, I could probably still gain that back a little bit over time, and I'm less worried about that, but more worried about my safety rating. So that's why I joined this race. Nordschleife has a lot of corners and a lot of ability to gain safety rating. Coming over the jump there, just about keeping it together, coming through the double right-hander, trying to be a bit more committed this time than I was the last time. As we're coming down the kind of downhill section here, I'm not familiar with the Nordschleife turn name, so you're going to have to forgive me there, but coming over this little crest here, just a little bit of dab of brake, get the car turned in early, trying to get it to slide through the corner, keeping it in the middle of the track and trying to keep out on the far left-hand side of the track for this long right-hander. Tricky one with this one because you kind of feel like you need to brake more than you do, and then you can power out earlier than you think you can, so getting the timing right on that corner is critical in this car. But this was a ton of fun. This is another corner where you have to be fully committed, keep the accelerator planted. It feels like you can't, but then you can on the kind of where the car compresses into the tarmac. Then as you're coming up over the hill, you need to brake earlier than you think, so just avoid any kind of understeering and sliding into the barrier. Coming through this section, I felt a little better than Adam. I felt like I was catching him. He went a little bit deep on the left-hander and then compromised his exit on the right-hander. So we seem to be catching him little by little, just about maintaining the gap here and there, trying not to push too hard and get an off track. It is very easy to get an off track here, and if you do, it's also very easy to hit a barrier which is only feet away from the off track, as you can see down here. If you went wide there, you'd hit the barrier pretty easily. He comes in very hot on the entry, and we gain a ton of time onto the back of him. Now the gap is closing. He was braking a lot through here. He missed the apex coming through that left-hander, and he's braking here probably a little bit more than I would have liked, so it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I run a little wide here. That is an off track. We touched the barrier. As I said, it's very easy to do that. Luckily we get away with it this time, and it was just a 1x for the off track and nothing more than that. It was just a glance off the barrier, so luckily for us it was just the 1x. Coming down here now, we're trying to brake as late as possible, but I'm very wary of that wall on our right because I have met that wall a few times in various different cars at the Nordschleife. So this is the first time I'm doing Ringmeister and the first time I've actually raced, but I have done quite a lot of laps around here in other cars. And I've raced around the Nordschleife in many different games, from Gran Turismo up to Project Cars and various other games like that. So many laps that I'm very familiar with the layout and which way everything goes. The only thing I have to adjust to is the cornering capability of each car and certain braking points, but I know pretty much and pretty well which way the car goes, or the track goes, sorry. So we lose a little bit of time to add him out in front, but we're more committed through here, through that left-hander. We're keeping it planted, so now we're starting to catch on him, using the kind of slipstream to our advantage here, trying to get onto the back of him. He seemed like he was prone to a mistake or two. We brake a little bit earlier than he does, just to make sure that we don't wash out a little bit. He probably was right on the limit of grip there and just on the limit of the track. We come through this right-hander probably a little bit more committed than he does, but it's not enough to really gain much time on him. Just trying to put more pressure, trying to keep the pressure on him, keep it building. Hopefully he'll make a mistake. He's missed a lot of apexes and he's kind of locked the wheels a lot into corners, so I'm just trying to build the pressure and build it and build it and build it, and hopefully eventually he will crack. Hopefully he will crack before the end of the race and I can capitalize on it, because if he doesn't crack, then it's going to be race over and I'm just going to finish in 5th. But anything can happen here, and anything can happen in this race. The Nordschleife is a very tricky track to remember if you're not used to it, as well as it's a very intense track. You have to be concentrating the full time. You get very little breaks. There's only a couple of places where you get a break to actually take a breath, because it's corner after corner, after braking point after braking point. There's a lot of fast sections, as I get a big slide through that right-hander, just about keeping it together. Don't lose too much time. I do lose a little bit of time to add him out in front, but hopefully it's not going to cost me too much, and we can start concentrating on getting the car back around to the back of him. Wipers going off, I wasn't too concerned about them. I was just thinking it's probably just a bit of dirt or something that was just triggering them. This race was scheduled to be dry the whole race, so I wasn't too worried about the wipers this time around. So, trying to reset again, after our moment a few moments ago, sliding the car out. Coming onto this drop here, I tend to brake before the drop and then do a little dab just afterwards, just to get the car nice and settled, and then concentrate on the left-hander more than the right-hander. Make sure you get the right-hander, pretty well. You don't push too hard in that right-hander and push more on the left-hander, because you want a better exit than anything. If you push too much on that right-hander, you can wash out and go into the barrier as you're trying to make the left-hander. Braking into this corner, I was a little tight and that kind of messed me up. My line was awful there, and again here line was awful. I was just anticipating the car sliding more than it actually did, but yeah, still together, still everything's okay. I think we've only a 1x at this stage in the race. No real damage or anything from our little taps with the Subaru and our taps against the barrier as we come onto the back straight now, coming on towards the finish of lap number 2. Adam out in front blinks again, but not the end of the world. A little blink here and there is not too bad. It's a bit different than the Porsche Cup race we had, where the guy was blinking almost every couple of seconds. Anyway, here's where we can take a bit of a respite and just breathe. After all that intense lap and just going through everything, I'm flicking through a couple of different settings here in the black box, as you can see, checking my timings, checking the distance to the cars in front and behind, just taking kind of status of what the race has been doing. I was actually trying to find out what kind of lap times the cars in first and second were doing, to see if we had any hope of catching them. They're way out in front, as you can see in the relative, they're over 11 seconds ahead, and we're coming up now to finish lap number 2. Only a 3-lap race, so there's only 1 lap left on this one. So we're going to have to try and push as hard as we can to catch up to Adam. He was pretty decent around here. He kept a pretty fast lap, but he was prone to a mistake here and there as we run a little wide ourselves into the first corner. Just about trying to push and push and push, but trying to keep it within the limits of our skill set as well as the limits of the car, because we don't want to ruin our race at this stage. We did a 7:07 point, I think it was 1 after that lap, second lap. So we're doing okay. Not the fastest or blistering fast lap times, but it's a decent lap time, and I was happy with a 7:07. I was doing 7:07s in not qualifying in practice, so I was happy to be doing 7:07s again. Trying to maximize our exit here, get a little bit of a slide, had to correct it. The gap is increasing to Adam out in front, little by little, as I'm making small mistakes here and there. Trying to push here now, coming over the crest, brake, just a little dab, turn in, wash out just a little bit to hold on. No, just another 1x there, just about touch the grass, get another 1x. So now we have 2 incident points. Not terrible, but I want to make sure it doesn't go more than 2, and I want to make sure that I can maximize my safety rating, because that's what I was ultimately trying to do. But kind of the red mist and kind of the competitive nature kind of kicked in a little bit. As you can see, I knew I was close to Adam out in front, and I knew there was a possibility of me getting a 4th position, so I was just trying to put him under pressure and catch up to him as best I could. The gap is around 2.5 seconds. It has increased as I've made little mistakes here and there, especially when I got that 1x and went wide. Coming through this kink over the hill, it's one of those very tricky corners. You want to brake early, but lift off the brake just to get the car rotating, and then brake again. Coming through here, I find second gear is better. I've tried third gear a couple of times. I like second just to get the car rotated and quickly shift up into third just to get the traction coming out there. The gap is coming down ever so slightly. We've gained 0.2 of a second through there, but we were faster than Adam through that section on the previous lap. Big slide, just about catch it on the apex. Coming through here now on the left, right, coming over this kind of hilly section, coming down the hill now into this long right-hander. The gap is down to 2 seconds. So, we're catching him. He's making a couple of mistakes here and there. We're catching him. The gap, we gained about half a second in a couple of corners, so now I'm starting to think to myself, okay, he's getting a bit bigger on my screen. The gap is reducing. Maybe I can catch up to him. I know he was prone to mistake. I know there's sections of this track that I'm better than he was. The gap is coming down to 1.5 seconds now. Only a couple of corners later, and we've gained another half a second. So there's still plenty of opportunity to catch him and then pass him on the big long straight just before the last couple of corners. Coming in here, I brake a little too late and a little bit too lightly. We get understeer like crazy, just kissed the wall. That was another 0x. Thank God it was a bit, the Nordschleife seems to be a bit more forgiving with contact than other tracks. So we lost a little bit of time, lost about 3 or 4 tenths of a second to Adam. We were more committed than he is through this left-hander, so we start gaining more time, back down to 1.5 seconds, 1.4 seconds, 1.3. Coming out, we lose a little bit of time, we don't get the greatest exits, back up to 1.6. So we're kind of seesawing here, back and forth. And as you can see, there's certain areas where I'm making mistakes, certain areas where he's making mistakes, but there's potential. There's potential for either of us to make a big mistake and ruin our race, or there's potential just to catch up to him before the end of the race. As you're going to see here, the gap is closing down again, 1.1. I'm more committed through certain sections like here than he is. The gap is under a second now, coming through his long left-hander. Car comes across the track, hits him, spins him. Can I avoid him? Oh, yes we can. We just avoid the spinning car. I felt so bad for Adam. He was doing such a good job. I don't know what that guy was doing. He was either second or third and he spun. And he basically just ran a little wide when I watched the replay. He ran a little wide, just touched the barrier, and that kind of spun him out. And then he just did an awful job of trying to rejoin. He reversed fully back onto the track, perpendicular rejoin, not checking his relative, and he takes Adam out. Adam goes spinning. I've never seen a car spin so fast in iRacing. I felt so bad. It was such a good race. It was going so well for the two of us, and I felt so bad that he got taken out like that. It was just, that was an awful rejoin and very, very much protestable. So I felt really bad for him. It was looking like these last kind of like half a lap or so could have been really intense for the two of us, and we were pushing each other to the max, and I started making mistakes here and there, and he was making mistakes as well. So there was a lot still to play for, and there was a potential for either of us to finish in 4th position. Didn't look like a top 3 was on, because the 3 cars out in front were just gone. They were so much faster than we were. But we find ourselves in P3 after that incident. The car took out 2 cars and we gained 2 positions there. So 2 incident points. We're looking at a possible 3rd position. Just need to keep the car together, making no mistakes. You can see a couple of times in comparison to my previous lap that I'm just taking it a little bit easier, especially through like corners like here, where it's very easy to run wide and go off the track. I tried to get the car to turn in early there. It didn't slide, so it didn't really help me there. I kind of almost went off the track there and almost got another 1x. But we're coming now. There's not much left on the track, and then the rest of the track is pretty straightforward. The trickiest part is this right-hander and then the kind of last 2 corners, so to speak. So it's pretty straightforward. You can see here I'm making mistakes as I'm just calming myself down, and kind of got out of that rhythm and got out of that kind of flow state, and I'm starting to make little mistakes here and there. And that's also kind of crucial. As you race around, you gotta keep in that flow state as much as possible, because even if you have nothing to gain, like you can see here, I have nothing really to gain by pushing, and the gap to myself and the car behind is still around 8 seconds or so. I have plenty of a gap. I don't need to push, I just need to bring the car home. And you can see that I started making mistakes just because my mental state was changed drastically from what it was a second ago. My focus just completely diminished just because I knew the race is pretty much over from here. So it basically ended like that. We don't make any mistakes as we're coming down the back straight here, flat out 6th gear. It does finish with me in P3, 2 incident points. Fastest lap was a 7:07.1, but it doesn't technically count because it was an off track. This lap is a little slower as we kind of just bring the car home. But yeah, very happy with this race. It was a lot of fun. I highly recommend you guys check it out if you have time. Go check out this car. It was a ton of fun to race here. It's very, very slidey, and the Nordschleife is always fun to race at. So highly recommend. We're going to check the results to see how that's affected all our ratings. So to the results, as you can see, we go double green. Yes, some safety rating. It's not as much as we would have liked, because I had those 2 off tracks and a couple of little 0 incident point contacts, which I'm not sure if they actually count towards your safety rating or not, considering they're 0x's, but it's still an incident. But anyway, we're back up 0.13 safety rating, and we gained 63 iRacing to get us back to roughly where we were at the start of the week. So happy with the result. Really enjoyed this race. I hope you guys enjoyed it too and enjoyed watching it. If you've got any comments about the race or about anything in general, leave a comment down below. Love to hear from you guys. Leave a like if you liked the video, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. Love to have you around. Check out some of the shorts as well, because that incident I posted on my shorts only a couple of days ago. So check those out as well if you've got time, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Subscribe to Racing Respite, let the chaos unwind. A sanctuary of silence where your soul realigns. It's that button, feel the call, let the world drift away. Racing Respite's calling, join the escape. It's today.